Blanche, what are you doing lining shelves on a Friday night?
I'm working off all my excess sexual energy.
Thank you for being a friend. 5 simple words that launched one of the most beloved sitcoms in television history and convinced America that 4 women over 50 sharing a house in Miami could be funnier, sharper, and more culturally relevant than anything else on TV in 1985. The Golden Girls premiered on September 14th, 1985, pairing Dorothy Zbornak's sarcastic wit, Rose Nylund's Minnesota naivety, Blanche Devereaux's Southern Belle charm, and Sophia Petrillo's Sicilian zingers around a kitchen table where they solved life's problems over cheesecake and coffee. Welcome to the Golden Girls.
Fun in the buff at a mountain retreat. Hike, swim, and play volleyball.
Primetime comedy made cheesecake a plot device and turned NBC's Saturday Night into appointment television for 7 straight seasons. Today we're counting down 15 weird facts about a series that almost cast completely different actresses, featured a gay character in the pilot who disappeared overnight, and became such a global phenomenon that the Queen of England demanded a private performance. Now, before we dive in, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe because it really helps the channel grow. Let's start with number 15. Number 15, Betty White and Rue McClanahan were cast in each other's roles. The Golden Girls producers had a plan. They wanted Rue McClanahan to play Rose, the naive Minnesota farm girl, because she'd just played Vivian, another sweet dimwit, on Maude. They wanted Betty White to play Blanche,
for those mascara stains on your dress,
the man-hungry Southern Belle, because she'd killed it as Sue Ann Nivens, the man-eating happy homemaker on the Mary Tyler Moore Show. Simple typecasting, easy decision. Director Jay Sandrich walked into the first rehearsal, watched them read, and said, "Stop. This is wrong." The women agreed. They wanted to play against type, not repeat their greatest hits. White had already done the seductress thing for 7 years on Mary Tyler Moore. McClanahan was desperate to escape being cast as the sweet, dumb character forever. So they switched. And here's the beautiful irony. Swapping the roles is what convinced B. Arthur to join the show. Arthur had heard about the casting and assumed it was just Maude and Vivian meet Sue Ann Nivens, a lazy reunion of familiar characters.
I don't know what I'm going to do about Jason. He's reached a point in his life where he's anxious.
When McClanahan called to pitch her on the show, Arthur said she wasn't interested in retreading old ground. McClanahan explained they'd switched roles. Arthur was intrigued. She signed on. The role reversal saved the show before it even started. Without it, B. Arthur walks away, and the Golden Girls never happens. Sometimes the best creative decisions come from actors refusing to phone it in. Number 14. Estelle Getty was younger than her TV daughter.
Otto is a very good player, Sophia. She must have picked it up from you, huh?
Estelle Getty played Sophia Petrillo, Dorothy's 79-year-old Sicilian mother who'd survived a stroke and moved in with her daughter after Shady Pines retirement home burned down. Getty delivered every cutting one-liner with perfect timing, embodied old-world wisdom, and looked every bit the part of an octogenarian matriarch. She was 62 years old when the show started. B. Arthur, who played her daughter, was 63. Getty was actually a year younger than the woman she called her child on screen. The age gap only got weirder when you realized that Sophia was written to be 79, meaning Getty was playing a character 17 years older than her actual age. The transformation took 3 hours every day. Makeup artists aged Getty with prosthetics, heavy foundation, and carefully applied wrinkles. Wardrobe buried her in oversized floral dresses and support stockings. The white wig completed the illusion. Getty would arrive on set before everyone else, just to get old enough to play Dorothy's mother.
Of course, there was a big kickoff party at Giuseppe's beach house.
And here's the twist. Getty was so convincing that audiences never questioned it. Nobody watching at home thought, wait, that's a middle-aged woman in old-age makeup. They just saw Sophia. The performance was so complete, so lived in, that the artifice became invisible. Getty didn't just play old, she became old, and she did it while being younger than her own daughter. Number 13. The theme song was recorded in one take and paid for college. Cynthia Fee was a session singer in Los Angeles, the kind of professional who showed up, learned a jingle in 4 minutes, recorded it in 2 takes, and moved on to the next gig. In 1985, she got a call to record a TV theme song. The producers had licensed Andrew Gold's 1978 song, Thank You for Being a Friend, but needed a shorter version for the opening credits. Fee walked into the studio, looked at the sheet music, and knocked it out in 1 or 2 takes.
Down the road and back again. Your heart is true.
The whole session lasted maybe 20 to 30 minutes. She planned on never thinking about it again. Just another day, another jingle, another paycheck. But here's the thing about union rules and residuals. Every time that song plays, the performer gets paid. And the Golden Girls didn't just play once. It aired 180 episodes over 7 seasons. Then it went into syndication, where it's been running continuously since 1992. Then it hit streaming platforms, then international markets. The song plays somewhere in the world, basically every hour of every day. Fee's kids went to college on those residuals. A 30-minute recording session in 1985 became a generational income stream. Fee later joked that her son got identified at a party as the guy whose mom sings the Golden Girls theme, which embarrassed him until he realized it was paying his tuition. Number 12. There were only 3 chairs at the kitchen table for a reason. The Golden Girls spent most of their time around the kitchen table, eating cheesecake and solving each other's problems. If you go back and count, you'll notice something odd. There are only 3 chairs. 4 women, 3 chairs. Somebody's always standing, leaning, or perched on the counter. This wasn't an accident or a budget issue. It was a blocking choice. Director Terry Hughes realized early on that 4 women sitting in a row created a visual problem. Whoever sat in the middle disappeared. Whoever sat on the ends dominated. The framing felt static and awkward.
How will I know if they fog up?
The little man who lives in there who turns the light on and off.
3 chairs forced movement. Someone had to get up to grab the coffee pot. Someone had to lean against the counter. Someone had to pace. The missing chair created natural staging that kept scenes dynamic and gave the camera interesting angles to shoot. And here's the clever part. Bea Arthur always got the center chair when she sat down. Always. It wasn't a diva move. Arthur was the tallest of the 4 women at nearly 6 feet, and the center position framed her properly without making her tower over everyone else. Betty White and Rue McClanahan would flank her, and Estelle Getty would either take the 3rd chair or stand, which worked because Sophia's character was constantly moving anyway. The 3-chair rule became so ingrained that even when they shot scenes in other locations, the blocking maintained the same rhythm. Number 11. Bea Arthur hated cheesecake in real life.
You know what her problem is? She cannot stand to see anyone else happy.
Calm down, Dorothy.
The Golden Girls turned cheesecake into a cultural symbol. Whenever the women needed to talk through a problem, celebrate good news, or wallow in misery, they gathered around the kitchen table with a cheesecake. The show made eating dessert while processing emotions into a legitimate coping mechanism. Bea Arthur hated cheesecake. Couldn't stand it. Wouldn't eat it off camera. In 7 seasons and 180 episodes featuring countless cheesecake scenes, Arthur was basically forcing down something she found disgusting while delivering perfect comedic timing. The other actresses consumed over 100 cheesecakes during the show's run. Bakeries from around the country would send specialty cheesecakes to the set, hoping to get featured. Betty White loved them. Rue McClanahan enjoyed the variety. Estelle Getty treated them like free dessert. Arthur treated them like punishment. And here's the irony. Arthur's discomfort might have made her performance better. Watch those cheesecake scenes again. Dorothy often looks slightly annoyed or skeptical while eating, which fits her sarcastic, world-weary character perfectly. Arthur wasn't acting. She genuinely didn't want to be eating cheesecake at 10 a.m. during rehearsals, and that authentic irritation translated into Dorothy's dry, unimpressed demeanor. The show's most iconic recurring bit was built on one actress's genuine aversion to the central prop. Sometimes the best acting comes from real discomfort. Arthur spent 7 years eating something she hated and made it look like character development. Number 10. The pilot. Had a gay chef who vanished after 1 episode. The Golden Girls pilot featured 5 regular characters, not 4. The 5th was Coco, a gay cook and butler who worked for Blanche, played by actor Charles Levin. Coco appeared in the entire pilot, had several scenes, contributed to the plot, and was clearly set up as part of the regular ensemble. He never appeared again, Not in episode 2, not ever.
Together.
Boy, I know I'm feeling better. My craving for cheesecake has returned.
NBC ordered the show to series, and Coco disappeared like he'd never existed. No explanation, no send-off, just gone. Here's what happened. During the pilot taping, the network executives and producers noticed the audience's reaction to Estelle Getty's performance as Sophia. Every time Getty delivered a line, the crowd erupted. The writers had initially planned for Sophia to be a recurring character who popped in occasionally, not a series regular. But the chemistry between the four women was so strong that producers decided to make Getty a permanent cast member. That created a math problem. 5 regular cast members meant splitting dialogue and screen time too thin. Plus, the writers realized that most scenes happened in the kitchen while the women prepared or ate food. Having a live-in cook eliminated the natural reason for them to gather in that space. Coco got cut. And here's the twist. Removing him made the show better. 4 distinct voices worked. 5 would have been crowded. The Golden Girls became iconic, specifically because of its tight 4-woman dynamic. Addition by subtraction. Number 9, Bea Arthur and Betty White couldn't stand each other. Bea Arthur and Betty White worked together professionally for 7 seasons, won Emmy Awards, created television history, and reportedly despised each other off camera. White admitted in interviews that Arthur was not that fond of me.
We toasted our first skydive tomorrow?
Your what?
We're gonna go skydiving.
Which is possibly the most diplomatic way to phrase a 7-year Cold War. The problem was personality and process. Arthur came from Broadway, where you prepare intensely, stay in character during taping, and treat performance like serious business. White came from television, where you charm the audience between takes, stay loose, and treat performance like fun. Arthur needed silence and focus. White chatted with the studio audience and cracked jokes with the crew. This drove Arthur absolutely up the wall. Jim Colucci, who wrote Golden Girls Forever, reported that Arthur saw White as unprofessional, while White's constant positivity irritated Arthur's more cynical nature. Arthur's son, Matthew Sachs, said his mother enjoyed having a nemesis, someone she could roll her eyes about at work. And here's the ironic payoff. Their tension made the show better. Dorothy and Rose's dynamic, the exasperated straight man and the oblivious optimist, worked because Arthur's genuine annoyance at White's cheerfulness leaked into every scene. The chemistry wasn't manufactured. It was real friction turned into comedy gold. The 2 women who couldn't stand each other created one of television's most beloved friendships. Sometimes the best on-screen relationships come from off-screen incompatibility. Art doesn't require everyone to get along. It just requires everyone to show up. Number 8, Estelle Getty, had crippling stage fright and forgot her lines constantly. Estelle Getty won an Emmy for playing Sophia Petrillo.
All right, Dorothy. I see behind that mask. You're angry.
She delivered some of the sharpest one-liners in television history. She worked with 3 accomplished stage and screen veterans and held her own every single episode. And she was terrified the entire time. Getty suffered from severe stage fright that got worse as the show progressed. By season 3, she was having significant trouble remembering her lines. Anxiety made memorization nearly impossible. She tried hypnosis. The show hired an assistant to run lines with her before every taping. Nothing worked. So Getty started writing her lines on props. The wicker purse Sophia always carried wasn't just a character choice. It was a cue card. Getty would glance down at her purse during scenes and read her lines off scraps of paper hidden inside. She wrote lines on the refrigerator, on the kitchen table, on anything she could glance at naturally. Eventually, the producers gave in and started using cue cards, which Getty could see just off camera. The studio audience would leave, and the cast would stay behind to reshoot scenes where Getty had frozen or forgotten her dialogue. And here's what's remarkable. You can't tell. Watch any episode. Getty's performance is flawless, natural, and perfectly timed. Her terror is invisible.
Thing up. Now, what is your point?
That I made it up. Picture it.
She was struggling through every single take, and it never shows. That's not just acting. That's courage. Getty battled her own brain for 7 years and won every time the camera rolled. Number 7. The show premiered at number 1, which almost never happens. When The Golden Girls premiered on September 14th, 1985, it debuted at number 1 in the Nielsen ratings with an estimated 44 million viewers.
Rose, aren't you forgetting something?
Not number one for new shows. Number one overall, beating every established hit on television that week. This almost never happens. New shows typically build an audience over weeks or months. They start in the middle of the pack, gain word of mouth, and climb gradually if they're good. Debuting at number one means you captured the entire country's attention immediately, which is nearly impossible. NBC was nervous. The network had just come off a brutal comedy drought. Everything from the 1970s golden age had ended, and nothing seemed to work anymore. A show about 4 women over 50 sharing a house in Miami seemed like a huge risk. The executives worried it was too niche, too female, too old. The audience disagreed, violently. The premiere attracted viewers from every demographic. Young people loved it.
It's still not working, you bimbo.
Old people loved it. Men loved it. Women loved it. The show stayed in the top 10 for 6 of its 7 seasons. And here's the beautiful irony. The thing NBC worried would make the show too niche, the focus on older women, became its greatest strength. Television had ignored this demographic for decades. The Golden Girls proved there was a massive audience hungry for stories about women who didn't disappear after age 40. The risk turned into a revolution. Number 6, Queen Elizabeth demanded a private performance. When the Golden Girls started airing internationally, it became a hit in the United Kingdom, and apparently, the Queen Mother was a huge fan. She loved the show so much that, in 1988, she wrote to the 4 actresses and asked them to perform live at the Royal Variety performance in London. You don't say no to the Queen. The women flew to London and performed 2 scenes from the show in front of the royal family. The producers censored some of the raunchier jokes to avoid offending royal sensibilities.
How different could it be leaning over? Oh my God!
But they left in one particular exchange that was surprisingly risque. In the scene, Dorothy asks Blanche how long she waited to sleep with a man again after her husband died. Sophia interrupts with the punchline, "Until the paramedics came." The Queen Mother, then 88 years old, was spotted in the royal box laughing heartily. And here's the twist. A show that American executives worried was too niche, too female, and too old became so internationally beloved that British royalty demanded a private performance. The Golden Girls transcended every demographic boundary the network feared would limit its appeal. The 4 women who played Miami retirees entertaining each other in a kitchen ended up entertaining the Queen of England in a theater. They went from eating cheesecake on a soundstage in Burbank to performing for royalty in London. That's not just success. That's a cultural phenomenon. Number 5, Elaine Stritch auditioned for Dorothy and bombed spectacularly. Before Bea Arthur signed on to play Dorothy, the producers auditioned other actresses. Elaine Stritch, a legendary Broadway performer, was high on their list. She came in to read for the part and delivered what might be the worst audition in Golden Girls history. Stritch couldn't get a laugh, not one. She pushed harder, trying to force the comedy, which made it worse. In desperation, she dropped an F-bomb into Susan Harris's carefully written dialogue, then apologized. Still silence. Finally, someone thanked her, and she left the room. Stritch later admitted in her one-woman Broadway show that she'd had a slug or 2 of vodka before the audition, which explained a lot. She blamed her consumption of alcohol for losing the role.
Vino, rescuers, religion, and pills.
Though her style of brassy, loud comedy probably wouldn't have fit Dorothy's dry sarcasm anyway. And here's the irony. Bombing that audition might have been the best thing for Stritch's career. She went on to play Jack Donaghy's mother on 30 Rock, a role that earned her an Emmy and suited her combative, larger-than-life personality perfectly. Dorothy needed Bea Arthur's subtle, cutting delivery. Stritch needed a character she could play big. The role Stritch couldn't land became iconic in someone else's hands, and Stritch ended up with a role that was better suited to her talents anyway. Sometimes losing the part you want leads to getting the part you need. Number 4. The writer's room was brutally competitive. The Golden Girls was known for sharp, clever writing that tackled controversial topics while staying funny. What audiences didn't know was that the writer's room was a gladiatorial arena where careers were made and destroyed every single week. Head writer Susan Harris created a competitive system where junior writers would all be assigned the same